Welcome to the Before. I'm Bongeni Mutwa. President Cyril Ramaphosa says government, business and labor are close to finalizing an agreement on an economic recovery plan for the country. This as SABC has announced 2 days ago that the local economy fell off a cliff with GDP plunging by a massive 51% between April and June as a result of the hard national lockdown to limit the spread of the coronavirus pandemic.
Mr. President.
Speaking to journalists last night, President Ramaphosa said the massive decline in economic output was to be expected. He said he warned about it when he announced the national state of disaster and the stage 5 national lockdown back in March. The president said focus is now on finalizing a plan to revive the economy.
We've got this fantastic platform which is NEDLEC, which enables and allows us to be in conversation. And I met them initially and I gave them 3 weeks that they should present a plan to me. They've been working at this. They needed another week extension. So that is now being, if you like, panel beaten into shape. There is broad agreement on the key elements of the plan, including the key priorities, clearly delineated objectives, the key priorities that we need to focus on to give effect to recovery.
Kosatu says localization should be at the heart of the economic recovery plan.
65% of the goods that we import as a country are manufactured goods, and the government hasn't really done anything to intervene to support domestic manufacturing, to encourage people to buy local. That government itself, when it comes to its procurements, including the private sector, they actually focus on buying local. Those are the kinds of interventions that we need.
For its part, Solidarity says overcoming load shedding is key to reviving the economy and job creation.
We call on government to allow South African citizens to fix the economy by immediately moving us to level 0 or level 1, allowing all economic activity, and finally allowing private electricity generation so that we are not hampered by load shedding.
President Ramaphosa is currently meeting with FEDUSA, a key stakeholder at NEDLEC, to discuss the finalization of the economic recovery plan. Bongeni Mutwa, SABC News, Johannesburg. Well, to discuss this further now, we are joined by SAFTU General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi, who joins us via Skype. Mr. Vavi, it's always a pleasure to have you on. There are serious discussions happening at the moment about bringing the economy back on track, but you as SAFTU are not part of NEDLEC. How come you are the second biggest federation in this country, Labour Federation, but you're not part of NEDLEC? How come is that?
Because NEDLEC, including its management committee, on the eve of SAFTU's creation in 2017, April, hurriedly put together new rules that were designed specifically to keep SAFTU outside NEDLEC, because that will massage the ego of the leadership of COSATU and its alliance partners in the political front. They push a rule that said we must remain outside for 2 years. And once 2 years is over, we must produce audited membership for each of our unions. We must produce audited financial statements for each one of our affiliates, not for the federation, but for each of the affiliated unions of the federation. And a rule that won't apply to them. They have never been asked to produce audited financial or membership statements for themselves as the federation, worst of all for their affiliated unions, and including quite a number of other conditions they have set. We're battling with those rules as we speak, but in the meantime, as you're saying, the second largest federation in this country, the home of the industrial proletariat, the home of the manufacturing unions, is outside NEDLEC. And government, together with its partners in NEDLEC, are concluding an agreement behind the backs of the workers that are going to be directly affected by the crisis that is already underway. We've seen from the Statistics South Africa GDP figures of last week, or in fact this week. They told us that the manufacturing sector alone fell by 74%. Those workers are not in NEDLAC to be represented, their views to be heard, and so that a recovery plan is not some document of the exclusive selected few, but it is a product of a thoroughgoing consultation with all of the stakeholders in the economy.
Now,
what a shame to people.
If I may ask, you being not there at NEDLAC, does it mean that there is no other way for you to make a contribution?
There is just no other way except us having to go to the streets now. And that's why in our National Executive Committee held 2 weeks ago, we agreed that we must now put in a fresh Section 77 notice. The first demand we want to put is that the SAFTU must be included. Workers must be consulted irrespective of their political affiliation and irrespective of their ideological differences with the parties in NEDLAC. But SAFTU must form part of those discussions. That's the first issue. The second issue, we will put in demands which we are prepared to mobilize the rest of the working class around for a thoroughgoing, radical change of the political and economic setup in the economy, which should include undoing the framework that we inherited from the apartheid, colonial, and capitalist order, and that such a framework must address the fundamental weaknesses of the South African economy, which are that the majority of the majority of our people are poor, they are unemployed, and our education system is not functional. Our people have no property. Our mines are not in the hands of our people. Our land is not in the hands of our people. And that's why we will never get out of this. And we will make a point in the streets that neoliberalism combined with austerity program will not take South Africa out of the quagmire of deepening poverty levels, unemployment, and inequalities.
Well, Mr. Vavi, unfortunately, you've run out of time. We could have discussed a bit more to get your input into the important national conversation that is happening in the country at the moment around the economy. Well, my colleague Nastasia Arendse is standing by to bring you the Alternative Investor. Stay with us.